Welcome to New Eridu, where humanity rises anew. Your new life living next to the Hollows. Hollows can be found in New Eridu, quite a few of them. Wait, don't start screaming, there's no need to panic. Living next to a Hollow is the hallmark of this miracle city. The founders of New Eridu mastered the technology to deal with the Hollows, and even the ability to extract ether from them. The entire city's prosperity relies on the precious resource, a magic exclusive to New Eridu.
A sub-hollow has suddenly appeared on the Janus Quarters August Street some 30 minutes ago. Public security has established a Level 2 control zone and is currently evacuating residents.
Hello, and welcome to the Zenless Zone 0 tuning test lore video. This video will cover all the information I could find on the world of Zenless from both the website and the tuning test itself. Keep in mind, due to the fact that this information is from an early version, all information listed and described in this video is subject to change. So don't take it all as fact, but use it as a base for when we get more information down the line and can compare story changes in future versions. Similar to my previous lore videos on other games, I've provided chapter breakdowns on the timeline below to allow you to skip to specific sections with ease. With that out of the way, let's begin. Welcome to New Eridu, where humanity rises anew. New Eridu is the last known metropolis in the world of Zenless Zone 0. They are also the only settlement that offers protection from the Hollows, which we will get more into later. New Eridu prides itself on its foundations and values, those being hospitality, openness, and freedom. The denizens of New Eridu are able to enjoy the old hustle and bustle of urban life, as they can satisfy any desire by taking a stroll down 6th Street. 6th Street is the main attraction in the tuning test, as we can find video stores, ramen shops, vintage music, and even an arcade. You can also find little fellas around the city that go by the name Bangboo. Bangboos are small body but big helpers. They were originally created to assist New Eridu residents with evacuation in Hollow disasters. When a Hollow occurs, Bangboo will immediately receive disaster information and evacuation guidance from the public network, but have since become more advanced. Thanks to emerging diverse needs, Bangboo have evolved into more comprehensive and versatile individuals. Some pro versions even go deep into the Hollows to help with various operations. Did I mention that they only speak in noises? Bangboo can also be customizable to fit the needs of any resident of New Eridu. However, some have decided to illegally modify their Bangboo, but this is extremely frowned upon. Fun fact, you own the video shop. As the MC, it's your job to manage your shop affairs while also maintaining absolute secrecy as to your real job. Just make sure not to mess with gangs, hollow raiders, crazies, or conspirators. Despite all the pleasantries New Eridu has to offer, there are issues that can pop up every now and then, some of which can't be dealt by the normal populace. That's where Hollows come in.
Okay, long story short, we've recorded this as a declaration. But of course, not officially. Just look at these. Doomsday. Curses. Don't believe it.
Hollows are an apocalyptic level disaster that appear as an abnormal spherical dimension. Hollows can pop up out of thin air and are very, very dangerous to normal people. There are several groups that deal with situations involving Hollows, a few being proxies, Hollow Raiders, gangs, and the Hollow Investigative Association. Oh, hey, remember that secret job I mentioned earlier? This is where you come in. You are a proxy that is hired by Hollow Raiders and are given commissions to delve deep into the Hollows and complete tasks or retrieve items. So, what's inside the mysterious Hollow? I'm glad you asked. Hollows have the ability to distort time and space on the inside while also creating ether energy due to unknown influences. Hollows can be reduced in size and can even be destroyed or collapsed by reducing the amount of ether energy affected inside. This energy is found in the air and makes it hard to breathe for those inside without proper Hollow equipment. That's not your only worry though, as the ether energy creates monsters known as ethereals that roam the Hollows and attack any foreign living creatures. Ordinary people lost in the Hollows face not only the horror of being attacked by monsters, but have the risk of corruption and eventual mutation from the ether energy. This is worth the risk though, as ether energy is the magic to New Eridu. This energy powers most of the city and allows for further tech developments for Hollow gear. It is strongly advised that the only individuals that enter Hollows are fully geared Hollow Investigative Association personnel or someone from the public security that has carrot map data. This is data that allows the personnel to create an escape route inside of the Hollow. This does not stop criminals or thrill seekers though, as hollows are often found with hollow raiders accompanied by proxies, gangs, or the displaced. Due to the fact that hollows can appear out of thin air, it creates an unfortunate dynamic where denizens of New Eridu often need to hire professionals to go into the hollow to retrieve items or even loved ones. However, the citizens can't always rely on the government-funded Hollow Investigative Association though. This leads them to commission proxies through the proxy network. Proxies are individuals that have exploration data on a hollow and can lead a team of hollow raiders in and out with a safe exit. The Investigative Association do not see eye to eye with proxies and even ask that residents report the identity of such proxies for a reward. This is where the massive propaganda comes into play, as shown by the government ads. They water down the actual experience of being inside of a hollow and make it seem that they are the only solution and source of help when it comes to the hollows. This is clearly shown in the tuning test to not be the case, as a massive portion of the population will post their commissions on the aforementioned proxy network or through a commission middleman. The residents will use the government's help when needed, but clearly trust the proxies with their task more. There are different types of hollows found in the tuning test, those being hollows and sub-hollows, which are also known as companion hollows. As of now, we don't really know the difference between main hollows and companion hollows, as we have information that some companion hollows can have higher ether energy, making them more dangerous. The hollows we have access to and know about are as follows: the unidentified hollow, the Cretan hollow, the highly corruptive hollow, which is a high-risk hollow, and the Limnian hollow. During hollow raids, it is common for proxies to equip hollow raiders with their own hollow gear by the name of W engine drives. These are equipment made from ether to boost the performance and increase resistance to the ether corruption for hollow raids.
Lies. Don't believe this. The truth. We want the truth. Disaster. Lies. It's all fake. It's not us. We just want to bring about a lively, a joyous, astonishing, and heartfelt. It's all true.
I wanted to add this section to allow for more in-depth world building and share some of the more missed details that can be gathered from the magazines and newsletters that HOYOverse posted on both HOYOLab and Twitter. Starting with the Ridu Newsletters, which gives a darker look into the truth behind New Eridu. Newsletter Volume 1. On the first page of this newsletter, we learn that gang violence around the old capital has been increasing, and the most recent clash ended in 7 citizens injured to varying degrees. Eyewitness reports state that it started over a verbal dispute between gangs and vendors over increased prices. On the second page, we learn more information on some upcoming films, but more importantly, we see that citizens are being overworked, and there was an instance where a man received overtime on his birthday and due to frustration almost jumped off the roof of the building. Luckily, public security showed up and saved the man. We also learn on this page that the Bangbu are fighting for fair labor laws and asked for the rat race to stop. Newsletter Volume 2. On the first page, we get a massive lore dump of Belobog Heavy Industries, which is one of the known character factions we'll be covering here soon. As for what is shown in the newsletter, they describe that the new president of Belobog, known as Koleda Belobog, has brought the company to new heights. They have been researching new and stable ways to bring heavy machinery inside the hollows. This includes many new patents and the production of several improvements in performance and service. On the second page, we learn that there was a counterfeit money-producing ring that was recently busted, which spent a total of 300,000 dinnies to illegally modify Bangbu and ended up producing over 190,000 dinnies in counterfeit money. We again see on this page that Bangbu are not just machines, as if you remember in the last newsletter, they were fighting for equal workers' rights, and in this volume, we see that they opened up a Bangbu emotional support hotline, which is open 24/7 and is free of charge. Finally, it is stated that at the end of the Metro Hook line, passengers can hear wailing and crying late at night. It is unclear where the sound is coming from. Newsletter Volume 3. This newsletter was massive, as we are introduced to a new section of the city besides 6th Street, and it shows a new companion hollow to the Limnian hollow. This hollow was created by 2 massive colliding ether energies, and the diameter of said hollow is still being measured. This hollow shows indicators of ether energy reaching the highest levels in history, and says that the new companion hollows are likely to appear in the future. Casualties are also still being confirmed, and the authorities dispatched hollow investigators who arrived at the companion hollow to help trapped citizens. Odds are, since this is a new area, we will see new characters soon. At the time of recording this script, they have not shown anything about the second beta or tuning test. On the second page, we learn of some new flavor text sodas and that Bangboo testing is starting on wireless charging. Bangboos can now recruit for said testing. We also get to see an eerie story about a missing child that was found after 3 months and was hiding inside the family's Bangboo outer shell, pretending to be that Bangboo. Due to the previous information we learned on the Bangboo, this is pretty unsettling, as the child was basically wearing the Bangboo's corpse as a shell. Finally, we have an ad for the reopening of the arcade Godfinger. We actually got to see the owner of this arcade through the video showcased at the Tokyo Game Show in 2022. This ad also seems to be hinting at the possibility of the next beta or tuning test, as the last beta was 10 months ago, and this ad lines up exactly with our timeline. Now, onto the more minor world building, we have the news volumes 1 through 4. In Volume 1, we get an introduction to the editorial team of the news, and they show off some movie recommendations. First up is the Starlight Knights. This is a show that Billy is addicted to, but we'll cover him in the character section. Starlight Knights is a film series that shows the crew of the Starlight Knights fighting all manner of monsters to protect the city. In the comments, we can see Billy type up a storm, showing his passion for the series. Next up, we have Oh Sweetie. This is an urban romantic adventure which covers a beautiful girl who lost her memory but experiences a deja vu situation in a strange city. In the comments, we can see Billy simping for Monica, the main girl of the movie. We see Billy mention how much he loves Monica in the main story of the game pretty often. We have a weird one for the next one, with the name being Coffee Mate. This is a movie based on the premise of a coffee machine by the name of Mr. Rob, who suddenly falls in love with a customer for a unique cross-species romance. Here are the comments for that film if you're interested. Finally, we have The Big Hollow. This film won many awards for the best photography, as the film takes place on many first-person perspectives by using invisible cameras to record streets, bars, and passerbys to recreate the world. This film is a full 5.5 hours long and includes a 45-minute long single camera shot to capture the eeriness of the Hollow. The Hollow was recorded by using a Bangboo car. Moving on to Volume 2. In this volume, we learn a good amount of information on restaurants that we can find around the city of New Eridu. The first being the ramen shop called Waterfall Soup, which is owned by General Chop. Waterfall Soup is a very popular shop, as many will take long bus rides from other areas of the city to try their signature dishes. Their open kitchen allows the customers to watch General Chop hand pull the noodles and complete each step of the ramen creation process. Waterfall Soup is located across the street from the 141 convenience store in 6th Street. Speaking of 141, they have a surplus of custom-made drink recipes that have been popular on the Proxy network. They have full-on templates that provide detailed steps on how to make each delicious drink. We then get to see some ads on other food and drink products around the city of New Eridu, including the amazing Nitro Fuel, which we actually have an entire ad for. Next, we have Rocket Popping, which appears to just be the New Eridu version of Pop Rocks. And finally, we have an ad for the 141 convenience store. The News, Volume 3. In Volume 3, we get tons of information on the bands based in New Eridu, starting with Padme. The band's first album was groundbreaking to the music industry. They released 2 conceptual versions, one titled Soul and one titled Luna. Soul having a more sunny, rhythmic dance tracks, while Luna had more dreamy and spiritual chants. They recently released a new album for the fighting game known as Foodie Fighters. This album was composed by Cooking and performed by Padme. The album consists of 2 major genres, those being heavy metal and electronica, with a few subgenres sprinkled in, being more dreamy, meditative segments. Another artist we see, but is not named, dropped an album titled Monologue, which the last song was over 30 minutes long, including her own inner monologue during interviews. Finally, we see a band named Red Soul, which started out as a student association band, but then turned into a full-fledged band. They are now signed with one of Eridu's biggest record labels and released an album with footage from all previously offline concerts as a sort of mini documentary. Quick side note, we did also see this album, however I'm not really sure which band created it. Finally, Volume 4. Again, in this volume we get to see more popular movie titles. These are also the movies that we can see in the video shop for the MC to get passive Denny earnings. Denny's are the currency in New Eridu. Starting with Don't Touch, 1996. This film is a fantasy thriller disaster, which is about the arrival of aliens on Earth. These aliens have low IQ and can change the appearance of objects through touch. It follows a researcher who was the first to find the aliens and was also the first to be touched. Next up is Nihility, which is a retro fantasy disaster that is based on audio and visual materials from the old era. It follows a researcher who found evidence of an upcoming HOLO disaster, but was not taken seriously and could not stop the impending catastrophe. 7710 and its cat was shown next, which is based on a true story of an IGC 7710 Bangbu model who was abandoned in a HOLO, but encounters a stray cat in this amazing story of friendship. Finally, we have The Rookie's Guide to the HOLO, which is a comedy disaster fantasy. I know, a lot of disaster movies in this city. This movie is based on a scientist of the old civilization that gets time traveled to the future during a HOLO crisis and needs to find a way to return to the past.
So we'll fight. Hypocrites. Liars. Defeat them. It's amazing. Relax. Rest. Wait a few days. It'll all be all right.
HOLO Raiders form their own factions to operate on the proxy network to complete commissions provided by the residents of New Eridu. The known factions and said raiders are listed as follows. The Gentle House, also known as the Cunning Hares, who are always in the top 10 of commission ratings, but also in the top 3 of complaints.
暇ならサバの食べ放題に連れてってくれにゃ。
First up for the Gentle House is Nekomata. She's a spirited and mischievous young girl who likes to play tricks on others. Your wallet is her wallet. No, really, it's hers now. She's athletic and daring. No HOLO is too dangerous for her. She's seen a lot of catastrophe and curiosity killed the cat moments and has seen a secret that can't be told. Next is Billy Kid, a handsome cyborg with a casual and carefree personality. He's an avid fan of the Starlight Knight show, not only referring to himself as one of the Starlight Knights, but repeating many classic lines from the show. Billy refers to his pair of special custom-made high-caliber revolvers as the Girls. They appear to have been gifted from an old friend. He may look unreliable, but once he gets serious, Billy can take on any challenge.
時は金なり。だから何もしてなくても報酬はきっちり払ってもらうからね。
The best of the Cunning Hares is Nicole Demara. She is the leader of the odd job agency of the Cunning Hares, who accept all kinds of HOLO-related commissions. She's been on the streets for many years and has a reputation among her peers as being exceedingly cunning. She's also been blacklisted by many clients due to her all-or-nothing approach. Oh, by the way, she's also deathly afraid of ghosts. Nicole loves money, but is surprisingly bad at managing it, leaving the Cunning Hares constantly on the edge of bankruptcy and owing many debts.
こちらアンビーデマラ。何でも屋、ジャト屋の従業員だ。
The last of the Cunning Hares is Anby Demara. She's a mysterious young girl who never really talks about her past, almost as if she didn't have one. She's calm and collected, and unusually competent and efficient in combat, almost as if she's had years of training. Due to an unexpected incident, Nicole brought her back to the Cunning Hares, and she's had an emotional independence on her ever since. Anby loves watching movies, but due to a certain lack of common sense, she seems to almost think of them as real-life stories. Anby also keeps an image of Nicole in her purse, and often confuses fiction with reality. Anby is also the first HOLO Raider that we witness enter a HOLO. Next up, we have Section 6, also listed as HSOS6. First up for Section 6, we have Hoshimi Miyabi,
簡単。許せぬ。覚悟せよ。
the head of HOLO Special Operations Section 6, and the successor of a renowned martial arts family in New Eridu. With her strong sense of responsibility towards guiding the principles and order within New Eridu, Miyabi aspires to build an unbreakable city management system and to own a sizable collection of swords, in her own words.
あなた、サボってるんでしょ。いいよ。ごちそうをくれるなら内緒にしといてあげる。
The last known raider of Section 6 is Soukaku. She's not only a member of Section 6, but also one of its assets. Soukaku loves to eat, and gets angry when seeing others waste food. She has trouble with words. Due to certain reasons, she's somewhat uneducated and often mispronounces words, which results in some cute blunders. Though only an immature kid, much like the boy in the Emperor's New Clothes, she often uncovers the simple truths. Next up, we have Belobog Heavy Industries.
誰がヘルメットを着用せずに現場に入っていいと言った？あ？ちゃんとかぶれ。
The first known raider is Bin Bigger. Bin is a strong body and honest soul. Those paws could shatter bones. Luckily, they're busy tapping away on a calculator. Has his fish and eats it too. Finds an easy balance between fighting thugs with his pillar on the battlefield and returning to accounting at the times of peace. The only thing that could make it all better is a jar of caviar. Fuzzy fur, no fuzzy math. Naturally sensitive to all things numerical, he's careful in his bookkeeping and has memorized all 58 account ledgers in his office. Bin repays recognition with loyalty. After 1 year and 321 days of employment, Koleda promoted him to head of finance, and he's followed her faithfully ever since.
おい、ボケっとしてないでとっとと働け。
Next is Anton Ivanov. Anton leads others in his passion for work. He's a senior staff member of Belobog Industries and an on-site project manager who's always ready to go. He's energetic and reliable. He's full of vigor and always rises to the occasion. He's also kind-hearted despite appearances. With a sharp tongue but a soft heart, he can't say no to those in need. Anton is strong, sincere, and straightforward. He's open and honest. Nothing seems to upset him.
失敗なんかへでもない。さっさと次の勝利に備えるぞ。
The final known raider of Belobog Industries is Koleda Belobog. She's small and cute, with some fierce combat power. She may be small, but she can certainly wield that huge hammer. A fierce young girl who's also a president, the young leader at the helm of Belobog Industries. Koleda is a president who leads by example. She prefers to work out in the field rather than being stuck at a desk. She leads by example while maintaining her cute nature. Her maturity sometimes gives way to occasional childishness. She's a leader who sometimes needs to be taken care of by her followers. Next up is Victoria Housekeeping Company.
退屈なさっているならステーキでも焼きましょうか。焼き加減はいかがなさいましょう。
The first known raider for Victoria Housekeeping is Von Lycaon. He can resolve any matter, the most trusted of attendants, and solid support for any team. He's rational and wise, a true gentleman who can't tolerate a single stain. He offers absolute loyalty to the one he decides to follow. Though outwardly sophisticated and rational, his innate feral character will reveal itself when faced with certain dangers.
私はカリン。ビクトリア火星の従業員で、年齢は16歳。星座は双子座。血液型は RH-。好きなことはお掃除です。
The last known raider of the Victoria Housekeeping is Corin Wicks. Domestic work or not, leave everything to her. She's obedient, diligent, and responsible, and not afraid of a little hard work. She'll never let her companions suffer, and always takes responsibility. You'll find no better maid than Corin. The final faction is unknown. In fact, it's quite literally listed as unknown faction. However, looking at Soldier 11's side missions, she mentions that she's part of the Obsidian division. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that this faction is labeled as the Obsidian division. The Obsidian division does not follow under HOYO Raiders, but instead the defensive force of the HOYO Investigative Association.
そんなものはとっくに捨てた。名前は過去を思い出させる。
Soldier 11 is the only known soldier under the Obsidian division. She's a model soldier who follows orders and stays loyal to the mission. At least, that's what Soldier 11 demands of herself. Weapons don't need emotions, and need only follow orders. No matter how strong the enemy, just get fired up and face it head on. She shed her weakness along with her name, leaving only resolve. One fun fact that we found while looking at the lore was that Soldier 11 was mentioned to have infiltrated the Tops vault through a sub-hollow, but no extra information was given.
こんなに仕入れるなら車にすればよかった。
もう一つの仕事は振り出しに戻ってしまったし、収入もかなり減るだろう。ビデオ屋の方も本腰を入れないと。
それもそうだね。でもなんでスローな映画ばっかりなの？スリリングな方が良くない？お兄ちゃん。
リン、僕は万人受けするビデオを選んでるんだ。
Last but not least, the main characters of the Zenless universe, Belle and Wise, a sibling dynamic duo that runs under the proxy name Phaethon. They are always the top-rated proxy on the proxy network and are the most wanted on the Investigative Association's wanted list. They mainly work with and get hired by the Cunning Hares to help them navigate through the hollows due to their unique ability to control and speak through an illegally modified Bangbu double. During a commission for the Cunning Hares, they obtained a special strongbox that they ended up needing to open to escape. This introduced the siblings to a new, unfound power called Fairy, an advanced AI that can calculate carat map data instantly and has access to over 80% of all smart devices in New Eridu. Fairy will allow Phaethon to stay #1 proxy on the proxy network. With all of the main cast out of the way, I would like to bring some important names from the story into view. I advise you to keep these names in the back of your mind for the following sections and also for any future information that we learn of the Zenless universe. First up is Elfie, the store owner of the Tipsy Muse, which is a record shop located on 6th Street. The Tipsy Muse is a front for her proxy business as a tuner, distributing W engine drives. W engine drives are equipment made from ether to boost the performance of raiders in hollows as well as help resist ether corruption. Next is Miguel Silver. Miguel Silver is the leader of the Red Fang Gang, and first civilian that we see get corrupted into an ethereal in a hollow. I do also want to mention that the Red Fang Gang is listed as the Silver Tiers by Nicole, but only on an off occasion, and for the rest of the beta was pretty much only listed as the Red Fang Gang, so we'll keep it as the RFG. General Chop. General Chop is the cook and owner of the ramen shop on 6th Street. Mr. Charles Perlman, who is the Vision Corporation's chief representative.
It's all true. That's all. Watching our world. We're the story. Me. As a mediator. Illegal and shady. This is for everyone.
Alright, this is going to be a long but fun chapter. I did do these sections in previous lore videos for Star Rail and decided to include it in this lore video as well. I believe it is a useful section for those that want to see the whole story of the beta without having to watch 10+ hours of streamers completed. So without further ado, let's get started. The beta starts off with the MC watching the news report from the Day 1 teaser. Belle tells Wise to check out the news and they discuss how the hollow that is being reported is located in the Janus quarters. Wise then mentions that the public security was conducting a manhunt over there. We then get to choose which sibling we control. After choosing, we enter Chapter 0, Business, Strangeness, and Justice. We're immediately met with the Cunning Hares fleeing a scene inside of a high-rise building at 14th Street in the Janus quarter. We can assume it's where the hollow was that the news just reported. It cuts to a comic strip style presentation where we see the head of the public security report that they are conducting a pursuit operation on 14th Street. He also reports that there was a terrorist attack on the research institute by the Red Fang Gang. He then corrects calling the men to criminals. They announce the leader of the Red Fang Gang as Miguel Silver. A reporter runs on camera and starts cussing out the Red Fang Gang as the reporter tells the gang that the hollow cannot protect them and that they have sent the public security's air force. The Cunning Hares run into a dead end by a window where they can see the hollow located below them. Billy tries to shoot the window and the bullet bounces off and shoots the TV off the wall and knocks Billy onto the ground. We see an interaction between the Red Fang Gang and the Cunning Hares where we learn that the RFG, as listed from now on, stole a strongbox from the research institution and the Cunning Hares are trying to return said strongbox. Nicole refers to the group as the Silver Tiers and mentions that unfortunately for them, Nicole is not working for the Security Bureau. Nicole spots a flashbang on the grounded Billy and tells him it's time to wake up. Billy sets off the flashbang, enraging the leader of the Silver Tiers, and he lashes out at Nicole. She reminds him that they are not their enemy. They are. And she points behind her where we can see the Air Force from the public security arrive. The gang realizes that the flashbang was less to disorient them and more to alert the location of the helicopter. The news reporter jumps back on and tells the Air Force to take the shot. The helicopter then shoots a missile out the window, causing the Cunning Hares to fall out of the building and into the hollow. We follow Anby as she weaves through tons of debris on her fall into the hollow, and we enter our first combat instance. After Anby defeats the surrounding ethereals, she mentions that she must be in the old Metro Junction located in the Cretan Hollow. She also mentions that she does not have a carrot or proxy support, and probability of getting lost in the hollow is 96.4%. While Anby is making an audio log, Billy stumbles into Anby as she attacks him. Anby mentions that Billy could be a shapeshifter ethereal as she heard reports of such enemies in recent time. Billy reminds her that those events were a movie and not real life, as those ethereals do not exist. Anby then asks Billy questions to ensure that he's the real Billy. After clearing his name, Anby and Billy run into more ethereals. During the encounter, they find the leader of the Silver Tiers being corrupted and turning into an ethereal while standing above the strongbox. Billy mentions his aptitude for ether is low. He fully mutates as his body is covered with crystals and his head is eviscerated into the core of the newly formed ethereal. Anby and Billy engage in combat with the new ethereal, and as it is close to being defeated, regains all of its energy, and Billy mentions that his ether activity is still increasing. Billy realizes that they cannot take this fight, so he shoots 2 nearby fire extinguishers as they flee in the smoke, leaving the strongbox behind. As they flee, it cuts back to the MC duo as they are inside the video store watching the news reports. The reports are saying that they could not find the leader of the Red Fang Gang and he is assumed to have fallen into the Cretan Hollow. Shortly after, Nicole storms into the room with the siblings explaining what actually happened at the building. She mentions that Billy and Anby have fallen into the hollow as well with the strongbox. Wise greets Nicole and asks if she can knock next time. Nicole begs for the siblings' help to rescue the duo and the strongbox. She calls them the legendary proxy Phaethon. The siblings agree to help Nicole and ask for more clarification. Belle mentions that things have been tight lately with the city founding Memorial Day just around the corner. The Hand has increased efforts to catch proxies. Belle then asks Nicole why she did not put in a rescue application with the HOYO Investigative Association or the HEHE listed from here on forth. Nicole responds saying that she did not want to become a target of the association, and if they found out that the Hares were involved in the HOYO raiding, they would be in big trouble. She adds on that if we were to help Anby and Billy out, then she will pay her entire bill in one go. Belle immediately agrees and tells Nicole to not push herself and just drop a bamboo close to the HOYO. Nicole refers to the bamboo as our bamboo double. Wise heads over to the HDD terminal to begin using the bamboo double. It then cuts back to Anby and Billy inside of the HOYO. Anby asks if it's okay to take a break as she looks over to a small bamboo that we are in control of. We give the okay and say that we will take first watch. Billy thanks us for helping them escape the Ethereal's domain and then asks why we don't use our special bamboo sync feature to work with the association. We do not get the chance to respond as an ethereal roars in the background. The crew decides to head out and Anby says to leave the combat to them. It then cuts to our first look at the TV array system in the game. This is how we navigate through commissions in the HOYO and advance the story. While traversing through the HOYO, the bamboo itself is able to gain ether corruption just like a normal person would. After clearing multiple areas of ethereals, we get a small CG of Anby and Billy popping the hell off. We tell Anby and Billy to rush through a wall to leave the HOYO as we desync from the bamboo. As they continued with a strange sense of release, the three passed through a wall as though it were nothing. The unusual pressure felt only in a HOYO suddenly vanished. The area around them resembled the familiar 14th Street. Nicole finds them and picks them up in a car. They all meet back up with Phaethon at the video store. The MC tries to bamboozle the Hares, saying that they extracted Anby and Billy, so it's time to pay up. Nicole stops them in their tracks, saying that we still agreed to get the strongbox back. Anby reminds us that the strongbox is in the territory of an active superior ethereal that is listed as the Dullahan by the White Star Institution. Billy explains he managed to pick up a small tooth necklace that appears to be the key to the strongbox. Anby also explains that the key is actually a small storage device. The Hares leave to go find a way into the HOYO to get the strongbox as we go and attempt to uncover the data on the flash drive. Belle decides to try and decode the flash drive and tells us to go complete some commissions to pass time and build up more rep for them on the proxy network. The proxy network is a mysterious anonymous forum where people gather to share information about HOYO related issues. Users of the network can pay proxies or HOYO raiders to take on their commissions. While exploring the city life, we find Billy, who explains that Nicole went to her associates inside the HIA to isolate the location of the strongbox. We meet with Elfie, the owner of the Tipsy Muse who provides illegal dealings of W engine drives. She explains that she would be glad to help us with getting equipment, but we need to gather materials because she had to get rid of all of hers when she had a public security inspection. After leaving the Tipsy Muse, we head over to the ramen shop where we meet General Chop. He explains we cannot take an order as he has no ingredients. Pegasus Logistics, the courier service, somehow sent everything he ordered into a HOYO. Chop is worried sick about the driver and asks us to make sure that he's okay. Leaving the ramen shop, we decide to enter the HOYO to gather materials for Elfie and try to find the driver for Chop. In the process, we find our first Ethereum, which are objects corrupted by ether that possess special powers. These items cannot be taken out of the HOYO. In the HOYO, we gather enough materials for Elfie and find a Pegasus Logistics truck that was empty and no driver was in sight. When we return to 14th Street, we go back to Elfie and obtain some W engine drives and head over to Chop to enlighten him on the news. When we arrived, Chop had reopened his shop, saying that he got a call from Pegasus Logistics that the driver had escaped and that they delivered his ingredients. Belle finished with the USB, and Anby and Nicole finished a plan to retrieve the strongbox. We meet up behind the Random Place shop, which is the video store that the MC owns, to discuss the plan in further detail. Anby unveils the master plan as enter the Cretan HOYO and destroy the Ethereal and retrieve the strongbox. After arguing if that was really a good plan or not, we decided to go into the Cretan HOYO after all. Once inside, Nicole explains that her association contacts had records of routine observation and ether research for the Cretan HOYO. She explains that she gave them an offer that they could not refuse and asked them to compare the data from the last 2 mutations. Billy condenses her information, saying they used the high ether energy levels of the corruption of Miguel Silver to act as a roadmap. We then have a strange interaction where Lorem Ipsum appears on the screen and then previous character dialogue repeats. I thought this was a glitch at first, but the MC then gives prompt to recognize that time did loop, showing that it was intentional. When the MC asks if they just said that, Nicole responds asking if they are daydreaming and then switches topic back to the strongbox. We continue deeper into the HOYO and the crew mentions how the air is feeling thicker due to getting closer to the ethereal. We then get Lorem Ipsum again and it repeats a threat from Nicole about giving us a negative rating on the proxy network. It then cuts to a prompt explaining that Belle had noticed an insignificant error in the HDD system backend. We tell Nicole and Billy that our HDD connection is unstable due to the ether energy and we are going to try and desync. A prompt explains that there is something wrong with the carrot. The HDD fully disconnects from the bamboo and gets an error. The MC tries to re-establish the connection through a backup link and receives another error. They then attempt to log out of the link setup and reconnect with default parameters and receive another error. The final attempt was to shut down the firewall and force a connection, to which we receive even more errors. We then get a long explanation of the DDD and how it works, explaining that it is the only tech of its kind and allows a user to transfer their consciousness into a certain device that you can control remotely. We learn that this is the first time that the HDD has failed like this, and Belle begins to worry about how long Nicole and the crew can last in the HOYO, because even those highly adaptable to ether energy will be corrupted eventually. The MC unplugs the HDD from the wall and they are met with a blinking cursor on the screen. They look at each other frightened as they realize the HDD has been hacked. We then type on the HDD, "Who are you?" We then see red text response saying, "I thought you'd never figure it out, Phaethon." The hacker sends us a document and tells us to watch what is in the attachment, but says to find another way to play it as the system now belongs to him. He then suggests that we hurry. We begin to play the video on the TV in the office and it flickers on, showing Nicole, Anby, and Billy being attacked by tons of ethereal. Nicole realizes that we have not been moving the bamboo and they all begin to protect us. After the fight, the hacker messages us again, asking if we are finished watching. He then demands that we give him the code to the strongbox. We act like we do not know what the strongbox is, and the hacker responds, "Wrong answer," and proceeds to pull up our data drive and formats and deletes some of the data on the drive. The MCs watch as their life and wealth is deleted before their eyes with no way to stop it. The hacker then states, "I will only delete some of it this time, but remember, your fate and credibility are in my hands now." He then asks for the code of the strongbox again. He then sends us another video file of Nicole and the crew, which contains them running away from more ethereal, and Billy discusses how they have been in the hollow for 4 times the recommended amount. Anby tells everyone to hide as we see our first look at the hollow investigators. We then see the crew discuss reporting us as a proxy to allow themselves to follow the investigators out of the hollow safely. Anby says it's either that or wait for us to make a connection again and hope that it's before they get corrupted. Nicole wastes no time in saying no to reporting us and tells Billy and Anby to get up and follow her. We then come back to the MC and the hacker, where the hacker says he's surprised that they did not give up our ID to escape, as he has seen so many teams between proxies and raiders fall apart. He then asks for the key to the strongbox again, and we say it was deleted along with the data that he touched earlier. We ask for access to the backups to get the key back, and the hacker says he does not trust us with any access back into the HDD system and demands that we give him our proxy network login and he will get the backup himself. The MCs are reluctant to give him the login but eventually give in. Once the hacker logs into our network, he transfers and rebuilds our proxy database over to his network. From that moment on, the original Phaethon no longer existed. The hacker had stolen their entire identity. We ask if we can have one more favor, and the hacker agrees since we had been compliant up to this point. We ask why the strongbox is so important. He responds saying that the strongbox can create one-time use carrot maps for hollows that allow smooth extraction of ether and other hollow-related activities. He then says that for hollow raiders and proxies like ourselves, this must be a dream find. The hacker asks where the backup code is located, and we interrupt him asking if he has activated his proxy certification yet. He agrees he has, and we ask if we can have another question, for real this time. The hacker asks if we're stalling and tells us not to forget his promise. Belle begins to berate the hacker, asking if he is such a master hacker, why did he not just hack into our proxy network and steal the data after hearing that it was stored there? Or why did he not show up at our door asking for the code since he didn't know if the key was digital data or not? Thinking about it, other than taking over the HDD, he has not implemented anything else a real hacker would, and that he's acting more like a kidnapper. She tells him that he's not as good as he thinks he is, and probably does not even know where they are. The hacker disregards what Belle stated, and asks where the backup is again. Belle plays along with the disregard game, and says, "Let me tell you a secret. Phaethon isn't just one person." The hacker gets angry and hostile. Belle happily asks if he can hear those sirens nearby. The hacker asks what we did. Belle says, "I'm just doing my duty as a citizen of New Eridu." As the anniversary of the founding of New Eridu approaches, the city admins are calling for citizens to actively report dangerous types, such as proxies and hollow raiders. They even opened a hotline. He asks again what we did. Belle responds, "I called the cops and filed a complaint with a nice man on the other end. To be precise, I reported the infamous hollow criminal Phaethon through the special hotline to the Hands Hollow Affairs and gave them the account details." The hacker asks why we would return ourselves in, and we again respond saying, "After activating the proxy ID, we're no longer Phaethon. They're coming for you. You see, you're Phaethon now." The cursor falls silent before saying we will pay for this and then disappears. The MCs then restart the HDD and establish a connection to the bamboo double once again. Once we reconnect, we begin talking to Nicole and the crew again and catch them up on what happened. Nicole mentions that if all of what the hacker said is true, then the fact that the Red Fang gang did not snatch the strongbox for themselves shows that they are working for a commission for someone else. After discussing more, we decide to continue to look for the strongbox. After a bit of searching, we arrive and find the strongbox, and soon after, Dullahan attacks Anby from behind, but she luckily deflects the attack and we engage in combat with the mutated Miguel Silver. After defeating the Dullahan ethereal, the crew celebrates that we can grab the strongbox and leave. We kill that vibe by mentioning that the original escape data was deleted by the hacker and we need to open the strongbox to use the master hollow data inside to find a new escape path. We then ask Nicole for permission. Nicole gives us permission immediately without hesitation. We open the strongbox and grab the data inside, and before we read the data, Anby asks why we risked coming back into the hollow to save them when our body was safe outside the hollow. The MC responds, "Because I'm a proxy. Even if you were to fail, the HDD would automatically post a commission to get you out." We then insert the chip inside of the bamboo's data slot. We then cut to a black screen with a new voice stating, "Terms and conditions. Shall not authorize others to use. May not be transferred in any way." This is interrupted by Billy stating to us that we made it out of the hollow. The new voice continues, "You agree to give full authorization when necessary to protect the common interest of you and this existence." We are then told that a huge torrent of information surges through the HDD system and right into the brain of the MC that was synced with the bamboo. Originally intangible virtual data is transformed into a perceptual snowstorm through contact with the bamboo. In an instant, pain overtook all other senses. The voice continues, "Do you agree to the above user terms?" We ask the voice to stop tormenting us. The voice repeats, "Do you agree to the above user terms?" It repeats again. We finally agree. The voice finishes, "The license agreement has been signed. I'm happy to be of service. Together we will make New Eridu."
In short, we are being reborn. You are involved. Partner of ours.
Meanwhile, outside New Eridu, a call male voice says, "How surprising, a key has already been activated." A pretty female voice then responds, "Huh? Really? Which one? Ghost? Jinn? Yokai?" The call male voice responds, "No, it's fairy." The pretty female voice then responds, "Oh, wow, that's interesting. Can we trace the host ID?" The call male voice responds, "No." After the authorization process, Fairy actively removes all traces of its presence on the web. The female responds, "Ah, why is that? Is it an order from the host? Or has Fairy determined that anonymity is important to them? What kind of person wants to hide? Or a proxy?" Wow, if that's the case, then this just got even more interesting. The call male voice responds, "But that doesn't matter right now. We need to report this to the higher-ups first." The female responds, "How's Fairy's host going to respond? I can't wait to find out." We then cut back to the video store as Belle excitedly says we're awake. We tell Belle everything that happened to us with the user agreement, and Belle tells us everything that happened while we were blacked out, including that Nicole and the others are safe and that we need to take a look at the computer. When we arrive at the HDD, Belle plugs in the audio interface and Fairy begins to speak to us through the PC, stating, "I'm a Type 3 general purpose AI equipped with total sequential integration. Development code, Fairy. According to the user agreement you signed, I am to always assist you to complete your work and wait for the opportunity to arrive." We then ask what the opportunity is, and Fairy responds that according to the agreement we signed, she's unable to answer the question. We will receive an answer at the appropriate time and place. We are then tasked with leveling up our proxy network to gain our privileges back. After we completed some missions, Belle took us into the back alley to discuss Fairy. Belle mentions that not only was Fairy correct about being able to find hollow escape paths, she did it with no support and over 270 times faster. She also says that we need to find out what she is and who made her, and then explains she talked to Nicole and found out that the commission to steal the strongbox from the Red Fang gang was posted publicly but anonymously. Belle enlisted the Cunning Hairs to track down details about the strongbox and the client. After a bit of discussing, Belle mentions that if we can use the tech properly, our dreams, our teacher's final wish, we can finally have it all. We leave and begin to do more commissions. We go to save a construction crew from a dangerous area known as the Dead End Hollow, and after destroying a giant robot, we run into our first encounter with Nekomata. Belle also mentions that according to the Vision Corporation, they plan on doing explosive demolition in this area. We hide from Nekomata as she begins to talk to herself and how the bamboo she just saw couldn't be the proxy Nicole was talking about. We then cut back to the video store. When we return, Fairy begins to read the mail that we'd received while we were out and began reading mail that covered information regarding the old Capital Metro renovation project. Belle relates this to the Vision Corporation demolition project that was mentioned before. Fairy tells us to turn on the TV and watch the news. The news begins and we see the man from the beginning of the game that was cussing at the Red Fang gang as he interviews the Mr. Perlman, who is the lead representative of the Vision Corporation. The interviewer asks how the demolition will work, and Perlman responds that they gathered pure ether explosives and filled trains with them and sent it through the Dead End Hollow. What the f? He continues by saying no need to worry, it won't explode without a dedicated detonator or a sizable external force. They also had to shield the entire construction area, which is blocking all communication signals. He also explains that all the civilians in the area have been cleared out and evacuated. We then learned that the Vision Corporation had won the rights to the old Capital Metro project at the construction project auction by promising to complete the project in less time at a reduced cost. They won the bid over the Belobog Industries, owned by Koleda. We also see Ben Bigger here at the auction as he's the head of finance, insinuated that he won not by normal means. The interviewer asks the secrets behind the reduction in cost of the project, and Perlman begins to show severe worry and anxiety and asks if this should really be a question. The woman alongside Perlman speaks up and says that there's no question of improper cost reduction relating to the Vision Corporation. The news is interrupted by Fairy as she states that someone is rushing to the store. Nekomata barges in and falls on her face. She then points to the TV and says to not believe the man, he is a tiny hypocrite. Nekomata then explains that Nicole sent her to the store for Phaethon and is holding Nicole's bamboo. She explains that Nicole and the other Cunning Hair members are trapped at the old Capital Metro where the Vision Corporation plans to blow up. MC hacks into Nicole's bamboo and we start to watch the footage of the events prior. The footage begins and shows the Janus Quarter in a companion hollow. We see a Red Fang gang member that mentions he's been here for 4 hours and will be leaving soon if his post replacement does not arrive soon. Cunning Hairs take down the RFG member, and while making conversation, Nicole sneezes, which alerts more guards. After beating some members, they leave the hollow, but are chased by more RFG. Nicole ducks into an alleyway and has an interaction with the gang members and mentions that Miguel was not the Cunning Hair's fault, and then offers half the money in her briefcase to have them leave her alone. She tells them the code to the briefcase, and it leaks smoke. Nekomata then interrupts Nicole's celebration and covers her mouth while taking her into a small cubby. She introduces herself to Nicole and mentions that she's a victim of the Red Fang gang as much as Nicole is and offers a commission. Nekomata and Nicole group back up with Anby and Billy as Nekomata explains that Miguel Silver had taken a family relic and she had been trying to infiltrate them to get it back. She then mentions that she heard about how the Cunning Hairs had tricked Silver into a hollow and defeated them. Anby's little sus of Nekomata and her goals, so she takes her to a nearby RFG hideout to test her. When they return, Nicole accepts Nekomata's offer and tells her that she needs a down payment for the commission. Nekomata pulls out Anby's purse and offers to pay. She then explains that she needs to run home and lock the door. She asks for 3 minutes to do so. Once Nekomata leaves, Anby speaks to Nicole and mentions that the way that Nekomata fights is familiar and she has skills only one of a gang would have. Nicole reassures Anby that it'll be okay and that we need as much manpower as we can to get the information on the strongbox and the hacker for Phaethon. After the group agrees to let Nekomata join the mission, she returns almost on the spot. Billy and Nekomata have a cute interaction where he includes her in their group plans and Nekomata smiles. We then speed up the footage to the next day and see the cutting hairs and Nekomata at an RFG hideout that Nekomata brought them to. Anby finds a ledger burnt into the floor as we realize that the hideout was abandoned due to the lack of a leader, Miguel Silver. They move on to another hideout deeper inside the hollow, and Billy calls out that he may have found the family relic, but it was just the most awesome Starlight Knight emblem of the last 10 years. Nicole sends Billy to check on a hideout himself and hears voices on the other side of the wall, so he then returns to grab the others. When he returns, he explains that the voices he heard mentioned that they keep the valuables in a warehouse located in a nearby companion hollow. The cutting hairs arrive at the warehouse, and it too seems to have been abandoned. Anby mentions that they have been coming up empty for days now. They then explain that there is one final Red Fang Gang hideout, and they decide to check it out the following day. We then cut to the following day and learn that Nekomata has not even described to the cutting hairs what the relic looks like, and she then says to leave the searching of the relic to her. Very weird. The group is attacked by a small amount of ethereals. After the group defeats the ethereals, Nekomata mentions that the last hideout is located in the Deep End Hollow. Billy mentions that is located near the old capital and also describes an ethereal that resides there that is so powerful it is on a wanted list. Anby says that it should be easy to sneak in as all the personnel around that area should be evacuated due to the Vision Corporation's plan to blow up the old capital metro site. We cut back to the MCs in their office and we take attention back to the news channel on the TV. The news mentions that the last train holding the ether explosives will be arriving soon and the demolition will begin once it arrives. While Nekomata and the MCs discuss what they should do to stop the demolition, Fairy speaks up and mentions that she has calculated a way to stop the train before it arrives and gives us the location of the train. The MCs give Nekomata a bang boot and tells her to go deep into the hollow. It cuts to when Nekomata arrives at the desired location. The MC reminds her to be careful and not waste time. Nekomata mentions that she has her own carrot map in the off chance that she gets separated. Deeper inside the hollow, Nekomata has to stop on a railroad track that blocked her path and we can hear a random voice speak to us. The voice asks if we are investigators from the Hollow Investigative Association, quickly followed by her introducing herself as Corin from the Victoria Housekeeping. She explains that she had lost her group while fighting ethereals and does not have carrot data for the hollow and would like to follow us to get out safely. We agree and Corin quickly cuts the train that was blocking the path between us clean in half with her chainsaw staff. She joins us as we delve deeper into the hollow and about 20 minutes later we find an exit for Corin and she thanks us and bids us a farewell. Corin mentions to herself as she departs that she heard someone mention Phaethon. She remembers that name is associated with a famous proxy and excitedly hurries back to her group. We quickly find the last train shortly after and Nekomata throws our bangbu on top of the train as we infiltrate through a hatch on the roof. As we fall inside, we find dozens of heavily armed soldiers, which was not said on the news. Nekomata appears and kicks a guard and then throws our bangbu through the train window and says to leave the guards to her. The MC brings the bangbu back to 6th Street and Belle mentions that the guards were with the public security and judging by Nekomata's reaction, she may have known something beforehand but did not tell us. Belle recommends we keep it low for now and avoid commissions in the Deep End Hollow as she finds a way to try and keep an eye on Nekomata in the hollow. Belle then tells us that she will let us know when she finds Nekomata. After doing some side commissions, Belle reaches out and tells us that she heard back from Nekomata. Fairy describes that she found Nekomata as she slipped over from the adjacent alley and tells us to go pick her up. We found Nekomata on the phone in an alley and she told us she would meet us back in the store. Once at the store, she explains that she not only beat the pursuers but also destroyed the track switch. Belle pressures Nekomata into telling us the truth and asking what she knows, to which Nekomata allows us to watch the footage from her bangbu to see her side of the story. We boot up her bangbu and the footage begins as the cunning hairs were headed to the RFG last hideout in the Deep End Hollow the day prior. They decided to rest on a metro station overpass. Anby spots a child that runs away in the distance and mentions it to the group, to which Billy responds the area should have been cleared for the old metro renovation and that the place should have been empty. Nekomata begins to worry that the child was left behind in the evacuation. They chase after the kid to make sure that they are okay. While chasing after the kid, Billy mentions that this is the area where the notorious ethereal was located and goes by the name Dead End Butcher. After chasing the kid further into the hollow, we find massive claw marks that have ripped through the tracks and platform like cardboard. Out of fear of their safety, Nicole recommends that they turn back the way that they came and then spots some soldiers of the public security and decides to fight them off. After defeating the soldiers, the crew realizes that they recognize the graffiti near them and notice that they've been walking in circles. They begin to discuss how the Red Fang Gang could have been oppressing the people in this area, and Nekomata mentions something that shows that she has more history with the Red Fang Gang than she originally showed. As the group begins to argue, Billy interrupts as he sees the kid once again as they start their chase back up. They follow the kid into an abandoned metro station, and Billy slides in as he protects the kid and catches her from falling from an ethereal and is thanked with a punch from the kid. We learn that the child was trying to lure the Dead End Butcher away from the metro station, and us chasing after her led it back here. Just then, the wall next to Nekomata explodes, and we get our first look at the Dead End Butcher. The child attempts to retreat backwards, but falls out of an exit to the hollow. The crew also falls out of the exit, and they all land on top of Billy. They look up as it pans to the inside of the metro station, as it is fully filled with refugees from the area. Billy mentions how there are over 100 people here and they are all in the blast zone of the old metro project. Anby asks around to find out that the Vision Corporation reps keep telling them to wait for the next train, but it has already been almost a week. We asked if they tried to call anyone, but they said that they have no signal and can't reach anyone. Billy calls out that there are signal blockers all over the place stopping them from calling for help. Just then an announcement plays that states that the explosives arming is in the final stages and that the technicians are in place and ready to seal the site. This is where we learn that the way that the Vision Corporation saved costs on the demolition project was to kill all the civilians surrounding the area instead of relocating them to safety. safety. Nicole, Anby, and Billy get forms from each person there to allow the cunning hairs to represent them about this conspiracy, and then gives her bang boot to Nekomata and asks her to bring it to the EMCs. It cuts back to the EMC and they decide along with Nekomata to go back into the deep end hollow and attempt to save those inside and expose the Vision Corporation. It then cuts back to Anby as she is talking with one of the civilians, and they mention that they would love to have followed the cunning hairs if they weren't going to join the Red Fang gang. Anby learns that the civilians here see the Red Fang gang as family, as they are the only group that has not given up on them. We also learn from this encounter that the Red Fang gang has a boss that they work for. Anby then returns to Nicole, and at the same time Nekomata returns with us in tow. We tell everyone that the plan is to get the explosives and mercenaries out of the last train and get all the civilians on board and ride it out of the blast area. Ferry then lets us know of 3 possible routes to the train. As we explore the routes, we find more and more evidence of the dead-end butcher and even logs from the White Star Institution and new Eridu defense forces. After searching every route, we eventually find and prepare to storm the Vision Corporation's train. We then cut to inside the train as we hear a soldier mention to Pearlman that the intruders, us, have caused some losses and are hiding in a train carriage. It cuts to the other side of the walkie and we see Pearlman tied up in a trash can with Nicole standing over him. Nekomata finds her family relic and we learn that she was a part of the Red Fang gang, and she was the one who sent the gang after us in the first place to find information and get revenge for what we did to Miguel Silver. Nekomata explains further that while with us, she has seen that we are not bad people and cannot convince herself that we deserve to die. She says she's going to talk to the Vision Corporation and takes Pearlman and leaves the train, locking the door behind her. The MC explains to the crew that the hollows can be reduced in size and even destroyed or collapsed by reducing the amount of ether affected individuals inside. After realizing they can't destroy all the small ethereals, they decide to take on the dead-end butcher, which would result in the same amount of reduced ether. Anby slashes the door open and the crew leaves to find the dead-end butcher. They then arrive in the front of the Metro HQ and engage in combat with the dead-end butcher. After defeating the dead-end butcher, it evolves and grows extra limbs, and the beta ends. I'm sorry? No, don't tell me that's... No, don't tell me that's actually the end. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived at the end of the video. I want to take a moment to thank every single one of you that made it this far into the video, and I hope that you enjoyed. I put a lot of work into this video, and it is hands down my favorite video I've made on the channel. So I really do hope that you guys enjoyed, and there will probably be some more information soon on a new beta or a tuning test, and you can bet your ass that I will be covering that when it finally happens. So make sure to subscribe to keep up to date with the new information, and thank you guys again for watching, and I will see you proxies in the next one.